excepting for the Wembley match, which sadly we lost by that 1 point, one of the more remarkable, well, it was 2 matches, was back in 1967 in the Cup. We were drawn at home to Castleford, and 16,000 people in Craven Park that day.
Wow.
There were people on the roof of I don't know if you remember the old Craven Park, but there was near where the dog kennels were, there was a flat roof, and there were people stood on there. Every vantage point taken. And the match was tight. It was a dour affair. In fact, the teams finished 9-9. John Taylor scored. John Taylor, who played for Rovers for years, and transferred to Cass. He scored their try, and at that point the score was 9-4 to Rovers. And and I think it was 9-4 to Rovers. Taylor scored a try to make it 9-7, and Alan Hardisty dropped a goal to bring Cass level at 9-9, and in fact he just missed one, would have been out of the cup. But as it turned out, we had to have a replay. Now, in those days, Castleford were well known for being one of the clubs that had floodlights early, and they decided the replay would be at Weldon Road on the 1st of March, 3 days later on the following Wednesday. And Castleford wanted to kick off at 7:30, but Rovers had not got floodlights and weren't used to playing under floodlights, so they insisted that the game must be played in daylight. So it meant a 4 o'clock kickoff, which meant for people like me, I was still at school, I was at David Lister, and, well, school kids all over. It looked like none of us were going to be able to go. But the schools in Hull, Lister certainly, and the schools in Eastall, gave us the afternoon off.
Brilliant.
So we ended up travelling across to Weldon Road. But equally, the Castleford school kids got the afternoon off as well, as did the local factory workers. And I can remember walking down Weldon Road about, 2:30 for a 4 o'clock kickoff. And the place was thronged, absolutely thronged. And there were kids everywhere. And in the end, one of the gates to Weldon Road was broken. So what looked like being a crowd of, say, 16 to 18,000, unofficially became a crowd of 26,000. Wow. With the Castleford chairman and secretary asking people who got in for now if they wouldn't mind sending their admission money back to Cass. But what a game it was, and there were 2 tough teams, you know. Rovers had Roger playing, Frank Foster, Bill Holiday, Phil Lowe played in that game, Alan Burwell. Tremendous team, but Castleford equally, they had Alan Hardisty and Keith Epworth at halfback, and it was an absolute brutal game. Rovers were leading at half time, 5-4. And 4-2. Castleford scored a try early in the second half, and it was 5-4 until the 68th minute. And then our hero of many occasions let us down this day because Roger drops a ball, and Castleford, Hardisty picked the ball up. It looked like Rovers were trying to get into the Castleford half for a drop goal, and the ball went to Roger. He dropped it, and Hardisty picked it up, and the rest is history. It was a try to Cass, and Castleford never looked back. That last 12 minutes belonged to Castleford. Peter Small scored a try. Peter Small, who came to Rovers eventually, he scored a try, and Castleford were the winners 13-6. But what a match and what an atmosphere. I've never been to one before or since. That was for the people of my age and my generation. They'll remember that match very well. So we lost again to Cass, but as an occasion, Rugby League won, because I can remember walking down towards Weldon Road and there were coaches from Dewsbury, Batley, Huddersfield. The whole Rugby League world had their eyes on that match. It wasn't televised, but for those 20-odd thousand that were in the ground, it was a remarkable occasion.
Some great memories there, Scott. I'll tell you what, Steve, he always brings up the big ones, doesn't he?
I love Steve's stories. They're brilliant.
I just, I was at that 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗏 Castleford game at Wembley in 1986. It was my last game before, I was 17 at the time, and it was my last game before I joined the Navy. And I had a little bit of a splurge and went down with the coach. And my best mate at the time I went down with was Lee Jackson, that went on to play for Hull FC, Great Britain, and Newcastle Knights. And I think that was probably one of the last times I saw him. But I remember the game. I think they beat us by a point, didn't they? But yeah, I was 17, let loose in London for a couple of hours. Because all the coaches used to go back into London and come back out for a bit. Yeah, it was great. I still remember it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Great.
I could do Steve's too. I could do a Robin's Revisited for you, John, if you want.
What about your experiences of tour in London, or are you going to give me? Right, we have got Castleford up next on Saturday. Of course, there's a bit of disruption in the Scott because there's the small matter of one of the world's biggest bands playing at Craven Park in just a short time. Of course, Coldplay are coming to Craven Park, which is it's probably gathering momentum now. At the time, of course, it was massive. The announcement was huge. But do you know what? I've started hearing now national radio stations talk about Coldplay and about playing at Wembley. Oh, and they're playing at Craven Park in Hull. And that's the kind of stuff. Yeah, look, ultimately, it doesn't lead to necessarily Hull Kingston Rovers getting in the shop window that much more. But what it means is just what a huge occasion we've got on the horizon, Scott.
Yeah, massive occasion. I think logistically, it's huge, isn't it? It's huge with moving Craven Street on Saturday afternoon to the backfield of the East Stand. But from what I'm hearing, I think stuff's arriving already. Stage is starting to go up. Bits and bobs are arriving, and the fact that Chris Martin has said that he wants it exactly to be like it will be at Wembley, I think is absolutely huge. I mean, I don't think people realise how big this concert's going to be. I think it has been a bit of a. It's fantastic that we've got it. It's brilliant that he chose Craven Park and chose 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗏 and Hull. And I think it's been a bit of a logistical nightmare for the club as well, you know, in regards back and forth emails and information and things that the band need, etc. Because if you're the venue and you're the host, you've got to provide everything that they want and require. So to actually be sort of a concert venue as well as the rugby league club, I think has been a bit of a shock to the system in regards to the scale of Coldplay, I think. But yeah, it's nearly upon us now, isn't it? And you know, I think it'll be two great nights, two sold-out nights down at Craven Park. I think it'll be great that we've got them in East Hull. I think it'll be fantastic that Rovers benefit from it, from the publicity and from the marketing. And, you know, 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗏 is not just been spoken as a rugby league team now, they've been spoken as a venue for one of the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah.
As they always say, you know, all promotion is good promotion, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. And that's why I mentioned on last week's Robin Pod, of course, the players have been afforded the luxury of being able to go on a short break. The staff need a break. You know, you forget the Amsterdam Challenge, Las Vegas, Coldplay, Challenge Cup final, Challenge Cup semi-finals, let alone day-to-day league fixtures, day-to-day operation. What an undertaking the off-field staff have undertook and delivered upon, and you know, they are relentless, you know, and they're absolutely fantastic in what they do, and you can't imagine the demands that when someone like Coldplay comes and plays at your stadium. But it's like a dress rehearsal as well, isn't it, for Wembley? Don't forget, I think
it's their only other gigs in it outside of Wembley.
So you think they're doing what? I think it's 7 or 8 consecutive nights at Wembley.
Yeah.
This is a real opportunity for them to do a dress rehearsal, and I hope the Robins take full advantage. I'm expecting Chris Martin to have a Rover shirt on. I want to see Rufus with his arm round him. I want to see Chris Martin kicking a rugby ball into the crowd.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's what
I want to at the end of the concert. I want to see the Coldplay band in the dressing room singing "Red Red Robin" and banging the ice.
Well, maybe that's how we could finish the concert. That's what we could
Yeah.
finish with the Red Robin. Because do you know what? Whether you like them or not, what you can't deny is they are world famous. Literally world famous. So the fact that they're rocking up at Craven Park in just a few weeks' time is fantastic. As is the work that's going on to facilitate that, and the fact we've got Castleford at home on Saturday. So it's a monumental effort from everybody involved in that, and fair play to them. I worry about the people who look after the pitches, who have done a great job. You know, Craven Park for me is one of the best pitches in rugby league. I bet they must be pulling their hair out.
I think last time we had a concert there, was it last season or the season before? It was only like one of the corners was a little bit dark, wasn't it? Whether they had some new turf, but I'm not sure about this one.
I remember seeing a big, like, sort of lime green patch at one point where boards had been down. I don't know whether it was for whoever played there, Rod Stewart or something like that. I'm not sure, but I'm sure that the groundsman's like absolutely terrified of when they lift the boards off the pitch. What he's left with, it must be. It must be. You know.
Well, we'll talk about Coldplay in a few weeks. Before then, of course, Castleford Tigers rock up at Craven Park on Saturday afternoon, a very rare 3 p.m. kick-off at Craven Park. Before we talk about the opposition, a big bit of transfer news, Gary, in terms of former Robin, Rowan Milnes, coming on loan from the Castleford Tigers in light of Tyrone May's 2-game suspension. It also means that Danny Richardson is going to join York, for the rest of the season, in preparation for hopefully them being in the playoffs. They're expecting to be free from injury by then. Rowan Milnes coming back. What was really interesting for me, Gary, is that Willie Peters didn't talk about just Rowan Milnes necessarily coming to the first team lineup. What he talks about is how he could help prep the team in terms of the captain's run and prep and rehearsing the opposition's halves and what they may bring to the side. We don't know the 21-man squad yet as we record this.
You can't play, can you? Can't play against Cass
now, Gary, because I don't know whether he's going to come into the starting lineup. I don't know where he goes into this now.
I think I read somewhere he can't play against Cass. That's one of the
of course. So he's going to help us prepare for Cass. But the big one is being prepped to play against Wigan.
Yeah, he's obviously brought him in to do that bit against Wigan if need be, hasn't he? Listen, we've had not listen as in shut up, but just we've had decisions like this previously, haven't we? Where we've thought to ourselves, what's going on? What's going on here? You know, Danny Richardson and then getting injured in that game a couple of weeks ago. What's going on? But he's always come up trumps, has he? Old Mr. Peters. He's always seemed to add that little bit in the back of in his back pocket. He's there all the time, like we've said previously. I think it's a good move personally. I think he can add a little bit, like you say, a bit of a prep for Cass and he could be there for the Wigan game just in case. I think it'd be all right.
What did you make of? Go on, Gary.
Sorry. I was going to say I think there's some people talking about bringing Morg, isn't there, into the halves and then letting him sort out fullback, later on this week. But I don't know. I think Morg's best position is where he is. Yeah.
What did you make of Rowan Milnes' time with Robin Scott?
I thought he was a decent player. He got us around the pitch. I think what Rowan does lack is a bit of pace. He's not the quickest kid, but he always seems to have a decent kicking game. He always seems to be, he was always bringing players into play and things like that. I don't know. I mean, we moved him on for a reason, or he left for whatever reason that Willie's so fit. I honestly, personally, for me, I know he's only here for initially a 2-week loan. I don't think he plays. I think he's in. Look, if anything, the only way Rowan Milnes would play for Rovers potentially against Wigan is if something happened to cie against Cass. Simple as that. If something happens to cie against Cass, then Danny Richardson can't play because he's injured, right? So by having Rowan Milnes in the club, means that we do have an option should the worst case scenario happen and that Mikey or Jez gets injured. But that's the only way I can see Rowan Mills pulling on a Rovers shirt again, if Mikey and Jez are able to play.
Yeah, Garrett, Rowan Mills for me, he showed glimpses of absolute excellence, but there was always somebody in front of him. He was never he never got that regular starting berth, and when he did, he got a 4 or 5 game run. But then there was always somebody else who just came back in to take his place. With the greatest respect to that, mold of being just that person. But I probably, like he alluded to, we probably underestimate how important Danny Richardson is to the side in terms of what he's done in training, in being able to help the side. And these are all the unseen things that are supporters. We just see the starting 13 and the 21-man squad that's announced prior to the games, but actually the role these players play within training really highlights how much of it is a squad game, and the fact that we've been able to get a player of decent caliber to come in and play that role. I mean, it's going to be massive, isn't it, if he plays against Wigan. If he doesn't play against Wigan, though, Gary, who are you expecting to see in the halves?
It's that thing. Jez can play in the halves, can't he? A little bit, and I think 𝗂𝗲𝗏𝗀𝗻 probably might have to do a bit more of a stint at hooker against Wigan. That would be, or you could bring in. I mean, you could bring Morg into the halves, couldn't you, and put Broadbent down at fullback and move Batch out to the centres again. I mean, there's loads of permutations out there that have worked and got us through this season. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I'll tell you what, Scott. Looking to Saturday afternoon, logically, you'd expect Mikey Lewis, Jez Litton to be in the halves, 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to play starting hooker role, Bill Leyland to come on in that supporting role, and what they may do is then bring 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 at the back end of the game to then counter which you wouldn't normally do if Litton was playing, for example. But that seems more like square pegs in square holes, like kind of thing. Like that seems to be the most logical route.
It seems the most logical route in regards not moving too many players around, not moving too many positions. I think you get away with that against Cass. No disrespect to Castleford, you get away with that against Cass.
Yeah.
Against Wigan, for me, Jez's best position would still be out of hooker. Around dummy half, around the ruck. That's where Jez causes most damage, certainly later on in a game. And if you lose him in and around that ruck area, I think that'll have an adverse effect on us playing a team like Wigan. You get away with it against Cass a little bit, and teams like Salford and those teams that are lower down the league. Whether, I don't know who goes in there. I mean, Willie hasn't been. He's put 𝗪𝗂𝗧 at 6, hasn't he? I don't think that's ever worked really. He's moved in from centre to into the halves. That's never worked. Morg last season, I believe, played 12 times for Catalan in the halves when 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was injured. So Morg can play there. We know that Broadbent's a decent enough fullback to slot into fullback. We know that. Reece Martin can play in the centres or can Batch. I don't think Batch would again. Against Castleford, you get away with playing Batch in the centres. I don't think you do it against Wigan, against people like 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and players like that. But I think they're two different games. And the two different games, Castleford and Wigan, aren't they? Totally different opposition. As I say, no disrespect to Cass, but you can get away with round peg square rolls against Cass, but you can't against Wigan. You can't. Well, so I don't know where we'll go.
Well, that's the other thing, Gary. Don't forget, we've got Jai Whitbread and Dean Hadley to come into this side.
Do you know what? Just whip back to the Salford game just for 30 seconds. When I saw the team come up on my phone, the starting lineup, I didn't even realise Whitbread and Hadley weren't there. That's how good the squad.
I tell you what, Gary, I bet you weren't the only one.
Yeah.
I genuinely think you wouldn't have been the only one who thought that, because
I'm thinking this is a great team. You know, I thought we were going to get against Salford. It showed real intent, and I didn't even realise they were missing until I had a look at it again, and then we were talking about it in the crowd. Yeah, they've got to come back, haven't they? And if given, I don't know, I've just said, don't forget they've won us a Challenge Cup. I mean, I would sacrifice Jared for one game against Cass and give him a rest and get those two on.
I think he's only 1 point from a suspension as well, isn't he, Jared? So if he gets something against Cass, he'd miss Wigan.
Yeah.
Well, and what was we just talking about at the start of the Robin pod about in terms of getting sucked into battles he don't need to. So yeah, do you know, it's a great point. And I tell you what, that's the skill of the off-field staff, isn't it, in terms of Willie Peters and the coaching staff and how they manage to play his minutes.
A good battle though, wasn't it? Westerman versus Jared Warrior-Hargreaves.
No, well, mate, straight away, I don't think there's any comparison, is there? Joe. To be fair to him, he's managed to hobble around for the last few years.
Yeah, true.
And he still makes an impact. But yeah, that's a battle we don't need to get sucked into. But yeah, all eyes on that starting lineup, because obviously people then make the assumption: will that be the starting lineup against Wigan, barring any suspensions or injuries? So it is a really intriguing lineup that we're going to see. And don't forget as well, players like Jack Brown have come in and done a good job and support him. So it's it'd be interesting to see what they do. I think you're right, Scott, in terms of we're playing Castleford. Let's not build this game up too big, because it is a side. But don't forget as well, they've got a player who's coming to Robins next season in Tom, who's since he's come in probably been their best forward. He's of course stating a claim for next season to be in that starting lineup. So we need to counter that. But when you look at Castleford over this season so far, Scott, they're not exactly a side that's you're really worried about. They've picked up results. What, the 10th in the table? They've got Huddersfield below them. Then, of course, Salford. They're probably the best of the bottom three teams. But other than that, it's not a side that really causes you any worry. It's a good game for us to probably go into on the back before playing Wigan.
Only 5 weeks ago, I went down and stuck 48 on them at Weldon Road, 48-0, so I don't see any problems for Rovers on Saturday. That's not getting complacent. There's no problem for Rovers on Saturday. And of course, Castleford have lost Rowan Milnes as well now. He's come to us. So they've lost their main half as well, when you think about it.
It's weird, isn't it? So he's come to us, he can't play for us, and he can't play for them.
Can't play for them. So he's sitting in the stands watching the game, and he can't play for either.
Maybe that's what the intention was all along. Just get him out of the team.
Yeah.
Well, of course, as well, Gary, it is a significant fixture as well, let alone the fact it's a 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon kickoff. It's also the Roger Millward Trophy, of course, a player who's got great heritage for both sides. And of course, we all know what he did for Hull Kingston Rovers. So it's always a special occasion when we do play for that trophy, because, of course, it's great to welcome Roger's family back to Craven Park. Yeah,
I agree. It's fantastic, and that's one of the good things about rugby league, isn't it? We never forget those that have served us in the past. We say, don't we? Once a Robin, always a Robin, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I say what, Scott, very briefly. It's not funny, but all the noise about Mikey Lewis and the number 6 shirt being unretired is dissipated. There's no. And to be fair, when in hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But ultimately, I think it was probably the right decision, and the performances Mikey's putting in justifies that decision, and I'm sure Roger's family will be pleased and relieved. Well, I don't know, not relieved, but pleased that actually it has gone the way they expect it to do, or hoped it would.
Yeah, I think so. There was a lot of hoo-ha when it was first retired, wasn't there? And, it should always be Rogers now. You can't unretire a shirt that you've retired, but it was all done in conjunction with Carol and Roger's family, wasn't it? You know, they were very happy that it did come up. You know, even Carol said, you know, for Mikey to wear Roger's number 6 shirt would be fantastic. But what a fantastic tribute to Roger. And the fact that many would argue, as we've said on the pod already this week, Mikey's game has improved so much that I think that the fact he's got that 6 on his back, he knows he's got a responsibility in that number 6 shirt, and he's taking it on, you know, with open arms. He takes control of the games, doesn't he? Yeah. What I will say, and I don't want it to sound negative, I want to see Mikey take control against Wigan next week and really, if we can, put Wigan to the sword through a Mikey Lewis masterclass. If there's any slight negative about Mikey, it's that maybe he doesn't take control of the bigger games, maybe against the bigger clubs. But that'll come in time. He's only 23. He's still a kid, isn't he?
I suppose, Gary, the point is, it's great getting 8 assists against Salford, and you know what? He's worthy of every single applaudit that goes his way. Yeah. But it's not about the 8 assists against Salford. It's about the 1 try or the 1 assist against Wigan, which wins you the game.
So the one kick.
That's the level he's put himself at now. That's where he is in his game.
You know, the 1 kick to win the Challenge Cup. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
you know?
Brilliant.
You know, we were under the cosh for 7 minutes and he comes up and gets the winning kick. Yeah, and I think he's not done a disservice to the number 6 shirt, has he, at all? You know, it's absolutely fantastic. All the extra sails in the short, and all that stuff that goes with it. He's 23, like Scott said, you know, and hopefully, I think in the few games around Wembley, Mikey Lewis, for me, I think the relationship wasn't there with Tyrone May and Elliot Minchella. I think that just as an outsider looking in, you know, watching on the telly and watching from the stands, I thought there was a little bit of a disjointment there. Disjointment, is that a word? I think there was just a bit of a disconnect there.
Is it like bounce back ability?
Yeah.
Aware of? And
then once we've come away from Wembley and we've had that first game back, I think it's all kind of clicking again. You know, it's to coin a phrase, it's not crunky anymore, is it? Between those 3, I think they had a couple of games where it wasn't quite there, and I thought, again, driving home on these long journeys, I'm thinking, have they all fallen out? You know, has something happened? As your mind wanders off, but I think they're all there again now, and I'm hoping the game against Wigan, like Scott's just said, will be a Mikey Lewis masterclass, just to get one over on that Dick Smith. It does my head in. Anyway.
Well, I'm just happy, Scott, that our journey is about 2.5 hours at the most. Otherwise, I get into these psychedelic thoughts like Gary. Just lastly on Mikey Lewis, what I'm surprised wasn't made more of is the fact that Mikey Lewis was only the second number 6 to lift the Challenge Cup trophy. Bearing in mind that he's had that shirt retired and then worn it. It seems to have gone a bit under the radar a little bit with the fact that with it being at Wembley. But anyway, like Gary said, he is befitting of that shirt. He's putting the performances. Ultimately, the way to really then represent and really show true, memorial to that 6 shirt is then going on to the international stage as well and doing it like Roger Millward did on so many occasions. But hey, that's all in the future. And the last thing I want to do is pile more pressure on Michael Lewis because he's under enough pressure as it is. He can't walk down the street without being recognised. He's literally a pin-up boy in Hull, and he's either getting a high five or he's getting told to do one because that's how rugby league in the city does.
That's why I had to move away.
Yeah. So so he's doing it well. But of course, we're all looking forward to seeing what he does against Castleford on Saturday. A bit of transfer news. Hot on the heels of us beating Salford, Scott, was the news that their fullback had signed a 3-year deal with the Robins, which was a bit unexpected at the time because we We didn't realise we was even in the market for him. Scott, Declan Murphy, only 20 years old. He's only played, 3 or 4 games of actual rugby league during his time. He signed a 3-year deal with the Robins. He's, of course, a fullback. He spent a lot of time with Saracens in their reserve grade side. Most of his rugby was actually played in New Zealand growing up and in youth grade. There's no doubt he's best onto the scene, Scott, in terms of his explosive running, his ability to catch a high ball and then recycle that into really good attacking positions. As good as he has been over the last few weeks since Salford signed him, it's one way we don't know, do we? Is he? Because 𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗏 he's not retiring anytime soon. So.
No, and it's certainly one for the future. I think Rovers see massive potential in him. It's his lightning pace. He's got to burn. I mean, I guess it's not much of an accolade, but he's 20-year-old. They come into Salford's team, and if you listen to the Salford fans, he's their best player. I mean, maybe that's not in regards to the squad and the players that they've got available to them, that's maybe not a big accolade, but for somebody who's a 20-year-old lad who, every time he gets the ball, the fans think he's going to do something with it. That's got to be good. And under the right coach, Willie, what I will say is that, as you just said, having 𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏 and having Jack Broadbent who can play there, I think, does it see the end of PLT at Rovers? Does his career at Rovers come to an end?
Yeah.
Because you don't need 4 fullbacks.
There's a number of players, isn't they, coming in under that 24-year-old bracket. Connor Wynne, Junior Sambu. Of course, Thomas Whitehead, who was on loan at Salford, who played on Thursday.
He did all right the other night, actually. I thought he carried well. All night. Did Tom, did the night.
He was playing out position as well, because he was more recognised as a loose forward. He was playing at centre for Salford.
Yeah. He's a bit of a unit, though, isn't he? He's quite tall and lean, isn't he? He's a bit of a unit of a kid. So
yeah. I tell you what, when you look at some of the players who are coming in, the one that surprised me more round about the Rowan Milnes signings. Although, of course, don't forget this has not been officially announced. Jack Charles is a Robin for 2026. I did wonder if the Robins might have moved to bring him in a bit quicker on the back of. The great at doing business quickly when they want to, aren't they? And I thought maybe Charles might have been one who comes in.
We tend to sign who we want, don't we? Whenever we want.
The thing is, though, it's one of the things that they've probably asked after Tyrone's suspension, and those on the other side of the city have probably just said no, haven't they? No.
Well, talking about the other side of the city, Gary, don't forget Cobie Wainhouse, the latest recruit from the dark side, 19 years old, 2-year deal. Of course, he started at the Bradford Bulls, and it was Hull FC who then brought him over from Bradford. I think it was Pete Riding, who was the head of recruitment or head of academy at the time, who brought him over. He's a front rower. Another one where you can't see him featuring in the first team anytime soon, but obviously there's a huge amount of potential. I don't know if you've got Eric Dorrow, you've got Fishwick, Leo Tennyson. Where do they go? Let alone our front row props at the moment. Tom Ramone's coming in to replace Jared Ware-Hargreaves. It just leave you just scratching your head a little bit to see a pathway for some of these players who are coming in. Don't get me wrong, we're lowering the age of the squad, which is a big concern last year, because we've got a number of players who were sort of 28 plus. We've got a number of players who were into the mid-30s, so I understand the need to reduce that age around the squad. It's just very hard to look to see where they will feature over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think maybe they're looking to. Maybe we're also looking forward in time to the 14-team Super League. A couple more games. 4 more games? Means you're going to have a bit more depth in strength in depth. A few more players coming through. It's quite tough, isn't it? On especially when you're playing every single game as a club. That was our first break, wasn't it? The week before last. we've played every week. So maybe, it's great that they're great at doing business, aren't they, as a club, Rovers now, and they're looking to next season, the season after. Who's to say the RFL won't turn around and say, right, we want to increase to 16 teams now, as an example. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Scott. I mean, Gary's mentioned it. 14-team Super League. Are you any clearer than you've ever been previously about where the future of Super League is? Because I literally don't know where we're heading. I don't. We've got the quota spots being increased. We've seen the amount of teams in Super League being increased. What's interesting is that during this time, the only thing that's not being increased is the amount of money that's being invested into the game from outside sources. So it's more teams, more players playing with the same money that was there before. And I don't know, Nigel Wood and Derek Beaumont seems to be prominent people right now. I just as Joe blogs on the street, I just question it. I don't know. I don't see where we're heading here. We don't seem to have any plan, or we don't even seem able to stick at something for longer than a year or 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. 2 or 3 years maximum, then we have to change it again. For me, there isn't enough player pool for 12 teams, never mind 14. We can see with Salford, with Huddersfield, with Castleford down at the bottom. They're so far adrift of everybody else. And then there's the other team like Catalan above them, that they're a different, well, that's a different conversation, Catalan, isn't it? But looking at the player pool for 12 teams, I don't know where these extra 2 teams are going to find a player pool from. Yeah, you can bring all the lads up from the Championship, but they're not seasoned Super League players. You might get 1, 2, 3, 4 that actually do make the step up, but predominantly, all you're going to see is another load of 74 12s against the bottom teams. That's all that's going to happen. And with no extra funding, no extra money coming in from Sky Sports, if anything, it'll be reduced on the next deal. There needs to be outside funding and outside sources. I mean, you got your Nigel Wood and people like that, and Etherington going to London. I don't believe for 1 minute he's gone to London without the guarantee that he's getting a Super League place. There's no way that
which makes you believe, doesn't it, Scott, that this hasn't just happened over the last few weeks. This has been
this has been
in the background for a long time.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. As I say, Gary Etherington going to London, retiring his position at Leeds at the end of the season, putting everything into London. He's not putting everything into London to be in the Championship. Not a chance.
Yeah, I tell you what, you mentioned about the play pool. I mean, let's look at London at the moment. I think they're 10th in the Championship. They're averaging a crowd of 800. So if they get the nod to go into Super League next season, where are these players going to come from? Because obviously the existing squad is nowhere near good enough because they're not even competing at the top end of the Championship. So you'd need in that London side potentially at least 20 players to come in. Where are these 20 players coming from who are not only going to make them competitive, but then also make them potentially challenge so they don't get relegated?
There's no relegation, is there? Once you're in, if my reading is correct, like you say, Hetherington's gone down to London for a guaranteed Super League place potentially for 3 to 5 years. So, and this is one of the, I bang on about it all the time. So anybody who wants to listen to me, just bring back promotion and relegation. Have 14 teams, but have promotion and relegation. Because when you play in Castleford this weekend, Castleford have got nothing to play for. Have they? They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to get relegated. So I know it's a bit of a pride thing, but for them, it's just it's a nothing game, and they're just coasting to the end of the season because they're not going to get relegated.
That's how FC got away with it last year by not spending any money because they knew they couldn't go down. And the integrity of the games are questionable, isn't it? Then,
I do think there's a point though to almost I'm not against a closed shop, because when you look at some of the more successful competitions in the world, a lot of them are single divisions without promotion and relegation, because it allows them to. So my point would be is that the outside teams who are maybe not in that top division, they need to show how successful they are to almost go, no, you need to include us because we're so big, we're so successful. But at the moment, with promotion and relegation, look, ultimately, the only way that things are going to change, Gary, Scott, is with someone delivering a big pot of money.
Absolutely.
There's no way around it. It is a big pot of money that needs dropping down. And at the moment, we've got people arguing over, well, so one of the reasons, Scott, that they've brought 14 teams in is to remove the loop fixture. Because what they've said is that with the loop fixture, crowds are down when they play the next. So if they've got the same side twice, crowds are down on the second fixture.
I think it's 20%. I think was announced 20% down, I believe, just for the second fixture.
So what I'm saying is, though, we're talking about pounds and pence. We're not talking about big money. We're talking about, almost down to the level of, we don't sell enough pies because we don't have enough away. It's not the big money that's going to make but we're making seismic change in the competition. But really, is it going to give us the big returns? It's just frustrating. And ultimately, I thought IMG and the gradings and that seems to be a bit of a clearer path. And that seems to have we're having it, but we're not having it because now we've got a committee who can go promote 2 teams.
An unannounced committee where nobody knows who the members are.
We don't know who they are. Yeah, 12 teams will be there, and then we're just going to choose another 2 by an independent panel. But everybody else is on IMG roles. What?
Yeah. I'm thankful, Gary, that the Robins, and we mentioned earlier on in the Robin pod, the great work that the staff have done at the club. We're now in a position where we're at least at the top table, and we're not worrying about the bottom side, where we would be in it, where would we be. We're now firmly at the top amongst a few other clubs. Because 5 years ago, we would have been in the conversation about...
Sorry, and we're bringing in the extra money, aren't we, by doing things like Coldplay concerts. Which then feeds back into the club, which, means we can have, 25 props for next season and stuff like that.
And clubs have to do their own thing as well, don't they? You can't be relying on TV money nowadays. You've got to be self-sufficient as a business module. We're up there now. We're very, very lucky that we've got Neil and other benefactors in the club. And there are other clubs like that. Of course, your Wigans are there and your Leeds and your Saints. And even Hull now, they've got a bit of money behind them as well. So those clubs can now sort of stand on their own 2 feet. And maybe they're not as relying on, the TV money as we used to be back in the day. But so that benefits us being at the top table. But as a sport as a whole, it doesn't benefit the sport one little bit. With these teams coming in with no plan. No plan. Hey, let's bring York in. Yeah, they've got a lovely little stadium. Let's bring London in. That lovely little ground at Cherrywood there where Wimbledon play. Nice little stadium. But what is the plan? What is their plan?
They're not even playing there now, Scott. They're playing at some rugby union club.
Yeah, they've had a few games, haven't they? Richmond or somewhere, haven't they? And stuff like that. So,
right. Anyway, let's go on to question time because there's lots of questions in there that we're already talking about. So Kev Verity, I'll start with you, Gary. He says, are we expecting the club to eventually look at recruiting more overseas players now that the option is available? Aware we've very much gone for youth players this recruitment window. I think I mentioned on the last Robin pod, Gary, I think Rovers are a victim of being well organised in terms of not anticipating that this change would come in. And I think a lot of business is already done or planned to be done, regardless of the fact that they can sign more overseas players.
Yeah, we've got Tom Amone coming in, haven't we? He's already playing over here, which is a great move. I think you know, we tend to be we're being more proactive, aren't we, rather than reactive to changes. So we've got, I think the staff at the ground, who we've mentioned loads of times today, the staff at the club, sorry, are actually probably looking 2 years ahead now. You know, rather than looking to the beginning of next season, they've already got that sorted out, haven't they? Like you said.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Tom O'Mone, you mentioned him. He must be settling into the area because I saw him in the new Lidl on Kingswood only the other day, and I double-checked. Well, I double-checked to make sure it was him, and he had his 2 kids, and they both had Castleford shirts on. So I thought, it's got to be, that's not just a coincidence, it's got to be him. So
that's how organised Rovers are now, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
A player that we signed is living in Hull, although he's playing for somebody else. He's already here. He's
first day pre-season, he's in.
No, exactly. And no disrespect to Castleford, Tom O'Mone is already a Hull KR player. He's already in the system. He's already in the Craven Park, you know, way of going about things, isn't he? Already.
Yeah. Right. We'll go on to the Wigan game. Lewis Hales, he asks, Scott, in your opinion, is it vital for Willie that we overcome the hoodoo of not beating Wigan? And is this the game we say the league leaders is Rovers if we win?
I think we have to turn up, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. There is, I suppose, psychologically, there is a bit of a thing about laying down a marker, isn't there? I'm not saying that if we beat Wigan in a couple of weeks' time, that means that we're... But psychologically for the players, you'd imagine it's a marker out there. Whether they talk about it or whether it's at the back of their minds, it is a marker for them to beat Wigan in a meaningful game that means a lot.
It's just little things, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, I'd agree with that. It took us ages to win in Lancashire, didn't it? For years, we never won on a Friday night in Lancashire, and then we started winning at Saints and winning at Warrington, and we got over that.
We didn't beat Catalan since 2019.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just getting over that step, that marker to say, look, we can, and we know we can do it. You know, the law of averages says you're going to win one as well, you know. But at the end of the day, as you said, Jono, psychologically, by beating Wigan, that doesn't mean to say if you're meeting them in the grand final in October, you're going to beat them again. But psychologically, it just gives you a lift to know that you can match them and you can beat them in a big game, certainly at the DW or the Brick Stadium, whatever it's called nowadays. But
I think the one that did it was that league game last year where we were so close, and then we got the Simbi, and then the game went away. And I think that's where it was a bit like a pinprick to the bubble, a little bit to go. We just can't beat. That's so we need to overcome that almost. I think not. Well,
if you look at the games we played against them last year, though, they were all relatively close, and they were all decided by maybe one moment of magic. Look at the grand final, Bevan French, one piece of magic. A week on Friday, I want Mikey Lewis to produce one piece of magic like that wins us the game and not them the game. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Regan Andrews on Facebook. We've answered your question, mate, about Roy Milnes, and you've edited it now. So thank you, though, for sending the questions. Make sure you keep sending it in, as should anyone who listens to the Robin Pod on the podcast or watches on YouTube. Make sure that every week you send your questions in. Pat O'Connor, he says, who plays instead of May? Are we thinking Morgan Broadbent to fullback? Well, I think we've already discussed that. I think our expectation is that Litton will come into the side at halfback, but who knows? Willie Peters, he's not afraid to do something a little bit different, and you know, who knows? Like you said, Scott Pettihickle could always, like, who knows? Until we see that lineup. But yeah,
Hickle at 6 and Batch kicking.
Yeah, Hadley at fullback.
Bazza Kingston, of course, regular contributor on the Robin Pod. Of course, he featured last week. He brought his friend on, Matt Timms, a Salford fan, who was great. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, it was.
He gave a real good insight into the struggles at Salford and give a real rounded opinion on the Robins. So we look forward to bringing him back on. He says, what's your thoughts on bringing in Cobie Wainhouse on loan? Yeah, we've got Doro out on loan. Not sure what sense that makes unless it's part of the deal to secure Cobie on a long-term deal. I don't know. I'm guessing they all weren't really that bothered about keeping him. It wasn't really because you can't imagine him featuring the first team between now and the end of the season, Gary, can you? Because he's not even featured for that lot. So he's like Baz quite rightly points out, when you've got 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 on loan at Bradford, there's no way he's in front of him.
Yeah, maybe he's. I mean, he's brought him in. He might just go straight out on loan and to get some game time. He wasn't getting any over there, was he? So I don't think he was getting any over there anyway. And Doro's the same, isn't he? We've got an abundance of forwards, really. Just get out and get some game time, and then when we need you, we'll call you back. It's that kind of squad now, isn't it? When we need you, we'll get you back. Don't worry, you will get a game. Bide your time. Get out and play rugby. Be the best player in Bradford. In the Bradford squad, and we'll get you back in, and you'll come back, and you'll be lauded by the fans because you're such an impact player.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, maybe being as charitable as we are, there could be a scenario where we actually load him back for our unfortunate neighbour.
Yeah.
To help them. So anyway, Baz Kingston, with the young talent that we've recruited for next season, do you believe that we're at the start of the 3-year cycle again of rebuilding and won't be expecting success next year?
Nah.
Do we have that luxury?
Yeah.
You've
I
got
think as Gary's alluded to it there. We're 2 years ahead. We're 2 years ahead of planning who we sign. We're not planning for who plays for us next year. We're planning now for players who play for us in 2027 and 2028. Yeah. That's where Rovers are at now. I don't think you can go in that cycle anymore in the hope that you can rebuild. Once you're in the cycle, you need to be at the top of your game now. If you look at the teams who we used to be successful, your Leeds and your Bradford Bulls back in the day, they were successful for periods of 10, 12 years winning trophies, where the Leeds especially, with all that great team, they didn't have a massive turnover of senior pros every year. Yes, we've got a lot of young kids coming in next season, but predominantly, apart from Tom and Mo, it's really squad players, isn't it, that are coming in just to enhance your squad numbers and obviously bring your age level down a little bit as well. If you look at Wigan over the years, certainly the last 5, 6, 7 years when they've won everything, they don't really have that many senior player changes. There maybe been 2 or 3 in a season. That's it. They don't bring 8, 9, 10 players in and they all go into the first team.
Yeah. Interesting one. Tom Noble on Facebook says, have our 2 halfbacks blown the league leader shield in the last 4 weeks? I think we would have lost against Wigan anyway, Lee anyway, but if Mikey hadn't pretended to be knocked out, we'd have probably gone on to beat Leeds. And Tyrone May has now risked the most important game left before the playoffs with an utterly pointless rant at the referee against Salford. I don't know. There's fair merit in what he says. I disagree because I don't think. Yeah. But it's a fair point that if you look at both acts, pretty needless, and that's the sharp reality of where we're at. Tyrone May didn't need to say what he said to the referee.
No.
I don't know about the Michael Lewis situation, whether he was injured or not, but he seemed to sprint down the tunnel. We'll never know. But if
Mikey had played at Lee, though, we'd have lost at Lee.
I think it was more the point
they were far better than us.
I think it was probably more, Scott, the point that if he'd have stayed on against Leeds,
but
shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think it's a case of blowing the league leader's shield. At the end of the day, with points difference, we're still 5 points clear of Wigan. It's ours to lose. It's not theirs to win. It's ours to lose, if we're being honest.
And I think you alluded to it earlier. Look, us talking on the Robin pod, us sat in the stands, stood in the stands. When you're out on that pitch, it's a very different environment. And totally. The way the players react rightly or wrongly, I suspect, though, And it goes to the question that Mike Durant asked on Facebook: should Tyrone May be fined for his ill discipline, which would potentially cost us a league leader shield? I don't agree with that necessarily. Why couldn't he keep his gob shut on what was basically a training run out? What I would say is, I guess there's one person who won't be very happy, and that's 𝗀𝗲𝗏𝗂𝗧 in terms of the whole situation, because now he's had to make changes, bring people in, and ultimately we all know the trust he's got in Tyrone May and how much he values him as a player, hence why he's signed a 2-year contract with Robins, because we know how important he is.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Tyrone May will be left in no doubt whatsoever. You do not get that. You do not do that again.
I think,
and if there is any, if there is any sort of, Tyrone May being given a bollocking by Willie, it'll be done in house. It won't be all over the press. Who knows? He might have been fined a week's wages. Who knows? You just don't know. Who knows what goes on in the gubbins of the club? Which,
Willie won't, the standards that we set, it won't have gone. It won't have been brushed under the carpet. Hence why also they've not appealed it.
Yeah, take it on the chin. If you do the crime, you do the time, don't you? At the end of the day, and he's got a 2-game ban. He has to take it on the chin. Yeah, he's maybe let his teammates down for the next couple of games, but his teammates, so they'll go and do a job for him, won't they, as well? Because that's the squad that we've got now. He's made an error. He misses 2 games, but we'll still go and try and win those 2 games for him while he's not there. That's the kind of squad we have.
Yeah, we do, and you're right. 𝗂𝗲𝗏𝗂𝗏1178 on Instagram, he says who replaces May for the next 2 games. I think we've already answered that in terms of who we might expect to see. But until we see that lineup shortly before kickoff on Saturday, we're all left guessing. But I think we've
when it's 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏, we can all come on next week and go, "We told you so."
Yeah, another question on Instagram is relating back to Tyrone May. 12 points for allegedly swearing at a ref. Do you think the punishment fits the alleged crime?
Yeah, I'm of the ilk that we don't want a team of robots going round playing for us, do we? It's an emotional game, and he's obviously seen a couple of poor decisions that's really got to him.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we would never know, will we? Unless he actually comes out and says what he said and why.
That's what I was interested, because the minutes that'd be really interesting for me, Scott. Do you know if they release the minutes to say?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Actually, I can understand why Rovers might not want it published either as well, because it puts Tyrone May potentially in a worse light than what he's. But
I think what happened. I think there was. When you watch it back, and I say this all the time, when you watch it back, the referees don't get that much wrong, You wear it. When you're at a game, you're wearing your red and white blinkers, and you're looking for every little nitty-gritty against your team, but they don't get that much wrong. But I think the reason why Tyrone said or did what he did was purely down to the fact that when you do watch it back, there was 3 refereeing errors in one set of 6, in one tackle set. And I think that's what made him do what he did. Don't make it right, because you can't question the integrity of a referee. But I can see why he maybe said or did what he did, because there was 3 errors by the referee in one set of 6. And I think he just, I've got to say something here, rightly or wrongly, I
think to answer the question, I think the punishment personally is too much. But you've got to protect the referee somehow. We don't want it to become Sunday League football, do we?
No.
You've got to put that authority down. And one way of putting the authority down is to ban players for a long time.
Yeah, ultimately, I think you're right. And the last question, and what we'll round up this week's Robin Pod with, is from Julie Rodman: pucker pies at home games, steak or chicken balti? Scott, are you a chicken balti man or a steak?
Yeah, I'll go chicken balti. I don't mind the steak pie, but if I've got a choice of the 2, I'm going chicken balti.
Yeah, I tell you what, Gary, I think I'm with Scott there. Chicken balti.
You're never gonna.
The only problem is when you do get the pies, it's like they're being cooked in lava from Mars. That's
yeah.
So if you get
Absolutely.
one at half time, you might as well wait until full time before you're able to actually eat it. That's the only issue I have, Gary. What about you?
You're never going to invite me back on now because I'm an ethical vegan, so I don't eat or wear any animal products at all.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Gary, it's been a pleasure having you on the Robin Pod.
It's just chips.
We wish you all the best in future. Each of their own, mate. It don't bother me. I bet you must struggle though then at games to actually get food on a serious note.
Salford, I went in and they had a vegan pie on the menu, and I said,
"Was it ethical though?"
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter vegan, but I think I say ethical because I don't do it just for the diet. I do it because I don't want to eat animals.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Anyway, and I said, "Can I have a vegan pie?" She's like, "We've got none." So so literally, I had a bottle of Coca-Cola, and that was it.
Oh well, Gary, is that so? What are you telling me that there's a strong vegan fan base amongst the Robins, or there's just literally just no pies?
Yeah, they sold out of vegan pies, or they didn't have any in the first place.
Yeah, when I go down Craven Street, I walk around drooling because all I can have is chips.
Yeah, I'd love to imagine that the lads who were going on the coaches from Lambeth Pub are draining the
vegan pies.
Yeah, that's something to consider for future games. But no, each to their own. But no, guys, it's been absolutely fantastic. We've got through so much stuff again ahead of the Castleford game. If you go into the game, make sure you are loud and proud. But for now, make sure you live, love, laugh, and be happy.
Rovers fight as one for every goal and try. Since '85, we've stood our ground, though trophies passed us by. From Craven Park to Wembley Way, with East Hull grit we fight. Now we rise, our heads held high, proudly wearing the red and white.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are reputable East Hull-based car specialists and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members.